What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Colon from House of Rasslin, and this is my review for the September 9th episode of WWE Smackdown. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you're notified when the House of Rasslin drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. This episode of WWE Smackdown, I will say that it is still continuing on that momentum that Triple H is building creatively. Granted, everyone talks about changes and everything. It hasn't, you can say, gone through this drastic change, but you still notice the difference from Triple H since he's taken over creative to when Vince McMahon was over creative, which was much to be left desired and stuff like that. But no, this episode of SmackDown was pretty good. The ending, I'll get into that later. But overall, this was a pretty fun episode. On this episode, you had Ronda Rousey, you had the Usos with Solo Sakoa. Glad they followed that up with. You had Braun Strowman. You had surprisingly Toxic Attraction. I don't know. They've used them quite a bit. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. I'll get into that. And of course, you had the Bruising Brutes and Imperium. But this was a pretty fun episode of SmackDown. You can tell that there was a sense of direction and a sense of follow-up with storylines and going into more storylines as we head into the fall season. And of course, when we get into the month of September, WWE usually cranks it up a little bit because one, on Raw, they're competing against the NFL on Monday Night Football, and then on Fridays they're competing against college football, and then of course next month you have the MLB playoffs. So they kind of tend to crank things up a little bit and get things a little bit spicier and intense, which is always fun for a wrestling fan, especially on a Friday night if you're the weather eventually is going to get colder, which that means summer's over, but you can tell that they're starting to crank things up with some storylines that are going to be very interesting heading into Survivor Series, and then of course Royal Rumble. And I know many of you are like, well, Extreme Rules is next. Yeah. Last year we seen what happened at Extreme Rules, so take it for what it is. It is a premium live event special, but it is what it is. So before I get into this episode of SmackDown, I'm going to give you guys the results like I always do. So it opened up with the Imperium defeating Bruising Brutes. That was a fantastic match. That was, for me, that was the match of the night. There was a part of this match where, who was it? It was Kaiser and Vinci did a double drop kick on Ridge Holland. And it's something that you would, like, if you was a kid, you would do with your wrestling figures where you put their knee behind a turnbuckle and do like that. Looked pretty dope. So yeah, you had that opening match. Then the second match, you had Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. They defeated Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan, and JC Jane. You had the, if you call it a Fatal 5-Way Eliminator match, Ronda Rousey defeated Lacey Evans, Natalya, Sonya Deville, Xia Li. I'll get into that match because with all those wrestlers in that match wasn't that long. Then you had the Street Profits with Hit Row defeat Maximum Male Models and Los Lotharios. And then in the main event, you had Drew McIntyre and Solo Sakoa end in a non-contest because Karrion Kross showed up. So, that's what happened. So that is the results for the September 9th episode of WWE SmackDown. It started off with a recap of Clash at the Castle, the Roman Drew main event, and then, of course, the interference and debut of Solo Sikoa. Corey Graves was on commentary, filling in for, of course, if you guys don't know, Pat McAfee's taking a hiatus because of his gig on ESPN College Game Day on Saturdays for the time being. So Corey Graves is on commentary. Man, like I said, this match, the opening match was the Bruising Brutes, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and if you want to call him Butch now, because it looks like more and more he's transforming back into Pete Dunne, which is, thank you, Triple H. And the Imperium, Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. Man, I enjoy this feud, man. This feud is... This is actually you could call it a staple of WWE that they haven't done in a while, as far as like these teams going against each other. Of course, we've seen it with the New Day and the Wyatt family. Again, that was, 2015, 2015, around that time or what have you, 2014, 2013, whatever time that was. So you've had instances like that, and this kind of brought back those memories because, man, I don't know what Sheamus has done, but Sheamus has turned the clock around where, like, it feels like we're getting Sheamus from, like, 2009 when he first came on the scene and was just, like, I don't know, he drank the fountain of youth and recaptured it, but he is doing a very good job. But, man, this match, one, it was a great opening match for SmackDown. That crowd was into it. They were hot. I mean, fans enjoy Sheamus, and a lot of people love Gunther. And just, of course, he was formerly known as Walter in NXT, so of course he has that fan base, and especially with that chop. Like, that's the perfect thing to start off SmackDown with, a Gunther chop. Like, that's what you want to see in a match. So yeah, it was a great opening match. Like I mentioned before, the double dropkick from Vinci and Kaiser on Ridge Holland, that was a slick dropkick, and the way the camera shot it was pretty cool because you didn't see the effect hitting, the effect of the dropkick on Holland until Kaiser, which was on, if you're looking at the turnbuckle, he was on the right side coming in, and you just seen Ridge Holland just jerk like that. I was like, ooh, man, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Might have future tag team champions in Vinci and Kaiser. Never say never. So you had that. Then there was another point in this match where it was, we want Sheamus chant. We want Sheamus chant. And it's crazy to think about because literally you could go back 3 years ago before the pandemic. Like, everyone was just like, Sheamus, like, him and Cesaro, they were the bar, and it was like they'd break up, they reunite, they break up, they reunite, and it was almost like Sheamus as a character just got very stagnant and just like, well, Sheamus has been there for a while, maybe it's time for him to move on. Whatever he's done a 180 from that, and this is fun. This is fun watching Sheamus execute this. After the "We Want Sheamus" chants, Sheamus is infamous for his forearm strikes on the apron, where he hits, the opponent with forearm strikes, at least 10. In this case, and maybe he's done it before recently. I think a couple weeks ago he went to last week he did the forearm. No, it wasn't last week. Yes, it was last week. Clash of the Castle. Forgive me, guys. Clash of the Castle, where he did the forearm strikes on the announce table, the apron, and the barricade. This episode of SmackDown, he did 25. I repeat, 25 forearm strikes on Kaiser on the apron, and that crowd went crazy when he did. It was like, yo, like, we're used to him doing like maybe 8 or 12. He went 25. It was like, yo, and man, he did his thing, man. From there, he did the white noise on Vinci and Kaiser, as he had Gunther. He performed the white noise on them. But in the end, the Imperium executed their Imperium bomb by Vinci and Kaiser. Pinned Holland, 1, 2, 3. That was the match. Like I said, man, these guys are really putting on excellent matches. If you are, like, it's Sheamus. No, this isn't the Sheamus. I want to clarify that. This is not the Sheamus that we saw last year and years prior. This is a different Sheamus, and especially with Ridge Holland and Butch/Pete Dunne. And, of course, what Imperium is doing. Like, Imperium, like, if you saw their stuff in NXT, you're like, man, I want to see them on the main roster. And now what we're getting by this feud is like, man, I am glad they're on the main roster. This is really good. And you can tell with, excluding Sheamus, because, I mean, he's been there since 2009. Ridge Holland, Butch, Gunther, forgive me, Vinci, and Kaiser, you can tell those guys are bringing a sense of kind of like what William Regal bought when he was in WWE after the whole alliance thing. Like, he brought a sense of like just that rugged wrestling where it's like, okay, you can have your storyline, but we just want to beat you up and win championships. That's all we want. So I'm really liking what they're doing with the Bruising Brutes and Imperium. And honestly, on both shows, their feud is one of the most consistent and one of the most entertaining as far as matches. There's very few backstage segments, and when they are, it's to the point and it's punctual. I like that, man. I like that in not only WWE, but just in wrestling in general, because you need those type of guys to really sell that they are an obstacle, they're an immovable object, and they are a force to be reckoned with, because it's like, who's going to take these guys down? Because these dudes are badass. So I love this match. Go check it out. You will not be disappointed. These guys are fun to watch. So from there, we went to a promo with the Usos. I got to say, whoever thought of putting Sami Zayn with the Usos, and whoever thought of the whole dynamic between Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, you deserve a raise, because that stuff is very, very funny, man. So we get Sami Zayn. He's like the hype man. The Usos do their thing. They come out, down 6. Hey, they're doing their entrance theme and they're bopping and everything. And Sami Zayn, he's the hype man and he's doing the thing. And man, Sami Zayn is hilarious, man. This man is hilarious. So they come out and Sami Zayn is trying to talk for the Usos, and Jey Uso's just looking at him. And you could tell a couple times, if you go back and watch it, you can tell that Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso are trying not to laugh at how ridiculous Sami Zayn is acting with them. Like, they're like, Jay has always been, since this dynamic is like, man, get out of here, man. We don't want you, very harsh towards Sami Zayn. But still, at the same time, if you pay attention, you can tell he's trying not to laugh because it's so obnoxious. It's like, dude, you don't fit in. Like, why are you trying to fit in when you don't fit in? And you're trying to be all hip and cool and you look ridiculous doing it, but you don't care. Like, what? So you got Jey Uso saying the tribal chief is the best draw in the bloodline. Run deep. They introduced Solo Sakoa. I like this for a simple fact that he should have been up last month. Like, finally, we get the Usos. The Usos. Now we get Solo Sakoa. We got the Usos, Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns. You know what's ironic is that when you look at it, the dynamic of the bloodline is not exactly the same, but it does have a feel of the Nation of Domination when they had Owen Hart, where it's like, how does Owen Hart fit with the Nation? Like, you got The Rock, you got D'Lo, Mark Henry, The Godfather, and Owen Hart. How does that even fit? Like, what? That doesn't make sense. And this time, man, let's face it, we could say the Bloodline is this generation's Nation of Domination, or the Nation. Yeah, when The Rock took over, it was more the Nation than the Nation of Domination. So you can say that the Bloodline is this generation's the Nation, because you got the Usos, you got Solo Sikoa, you got Roman, and you got Sami Zayn, who is the kind of the Owen Hart, but he's just more funny. Owen Hart was real serious, and he was included in the group. Like, Jey Uso does not want Sami Zayn in this, and this was evident here. So as Solo Sikoa comes out, what I liked about this, they displayed a video package of his work in NXT, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, let's grant it. We're like, finally they show stuff like this from, their work in NXT and then coming up. As a wrestling fan, do not sleep on the effect that's going to have in the long run. Because right now NXT is having, 600,000 viewers. As they continue to bring these guys up, these men and women up from NXT to the main roster, and they keep showing these video packages, in turn, there's going to get a lot of people like, hey, I should check out NXT. Like, wow, they're bringing these guys up really, really interesting. Granted, NXT needed the aesthetic change, where it was brighter and everything, not as hokey and, MTV, Jersey Shore, reality TV storyline base that they've had, where it's like, man, everybody's horny on this show. But in the long run, that's going to pay off, and I like that, because that's just going to add more depth to the character that's being brought up to Raw or SmackDown, and in turn, don't be surprised if you see viewer increase and NXT bump up a little bit from this year to next year, where there is a bump in the ratings, where they start getting, let's say like 800,000. Not bad, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, because if you're doing that with Solo Sikoa, you're definitely going to do that when Braun Breaker Reed jumps to the main roster. You're going to do that to Cora Jade. You're going to do that to Roxanne Perez. You're going to do that to Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. You're going to do that to Tyler Bate. So you're going to do that to all these. Those five that I just mentioned are probably going to be the ones that are going to be on the main roster in the next year or year and a half. So don't sleep on that. So they show the video package. There's a chorus of boos. You have Solo Sikoa during this whole segment, and Jey Uso staring a hole through Sami Zayn, and Jimmy Uso the whole time he's smiling and laughing, and it's like, yo, this dynamic is so entertaining and hilarious. So Solo Sikoa gets on the mic and he's like, if you come from my family, I come for you. The bloodline just got stronger. Music hits. Drew McIntyre comes out with the chair. The Usos leave. Sami Zayn leaves, and Solo Sikoa's like, yeah. And the moment he kept on, yeah, let's go. I'm like, oh, this the fighter. This the dude that they're gonna send out to do the dirty work. Oh, this is gonna be the workhorse of the group. Like, this is gonna be wasn't a Horseman. You always had Arn Anderson go out first and just get them licks in, and then everybody else is like, ooh, this is gonna be good. So Drew McIntyre gets in. He goes to hit Solo Sikoa with the chair. Sami Zayn, as he's trying to do that, Sami Zayn pushes him and takes the chair shot. And it's like, oh, okay. So he takes the chair shot. They leave. Blah, blah, blah. From there, we get to the match between Raquel Gonzalez, Aaliyah, versus Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan, and JC Jane. This match was really a squash match, almost. One thing I didn't like about this match was the camera cuts while Gigi Dolan was doing the foot stomps on the turnbuckle. Like, it was just like these weird, quick camera cuts, which it's like she's doing foot stomps. Like, those camera cuts don't, like, all you have to do is just keep it there. Like, she's not flipping around. She's staying in one position and just stomping. Like, didn't make any sense. There was a cool point in the match where Aaliyah broke up it was going to be like a double suplex, and she speared, I believe it was JC Jane. No, it was Gigi Dolan, and that allowed Raquel Gonzalez, or Raquel Rodriguez, to perform the Tejano Bomb. 1, 2, 3, they win. Really quick match. One thing I did notice about this match, and I know in NXT Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, they're with Mandy Rose. But if you look at them, they fit more with Shotzi Blackheart than they do with Mandy Rose. And granted, under previous creative leadership / Vince McMahon, maybe it was, hey, let's put them with Mandy Rose. But aesthetically, with JC Jane's look, with Gigi Dolan's look, they fit. They really fit with Shotzi Blackheart. I don't know if they'll do that because, of course, Mandy Rose is eventually going to jump to the main roster. But that's a trio that should be up on the SmackDown side, because let's face it, they're putting all these trios, women's groups together. So it's like, why not put, it's there. I know more people, they should keep Mandy Rose. Like, yeah, but if you really look at it long-term wise, Mandy Rose is eventually going to go on her own. Like, that's how they're really putting them. Like, they're kind of separating them now, where Mandy Rose is having her own matches. They're still using Toxic Attraction theme, but you can tell they're putting them separate. So then we get another women's match, which was, I believe it was it was an eliminator match, and the winner would take on Liv Morgan at Extreme Rules. So you had Xia Li, Sonya Deville, Natalya, Lacey Evans, and Ronda Rousey. This was not a long match. That's what I mean. This was a match that I was anticipating getting some time on TV. Nope. So it started off, everyone was trying to get an upper hand. All the women were just like trying to get their shots in. Hey, let's get the first person out, because it was an eliminator match. So Ronda Rousey right away does an armbar on Natalya. Natalya taps out. Natalya's eliminated. Then we get a showdown between Xia Li and Ronda Rousey. That is a feud that I want to see. Xia Li and Ronda Rousey, when they faced off, and just the moves they were doing and just the attacks. And mind you, from Xia Li to Sonya Deville, those were the only two that were actually using mat wrestling takedowns on Ronda Rousey. And watching Xia Li wrestle Ronda Rousey, I was like, ooh, like, that's a potential feud that they're sleeping on. Like, there's something there, because when you seen it, it was like, ooh, okay, this is something. Like, if you've been watching wrestling for over 25, 30 years, you know that there's something magical when you see two competitors. Like, it just clicks. Like, okay, this fits. Like, visually, it's just something clicks. And that's what I saw when Xia Li and Ronda Rousey were wrestling. And then when they had the face-off, you had Ronda Rousey have Xia Li in the sleeper hold, in a submission hold, and you had Sonya Deville with, I believe, Lacey Evans in a submission hold. Basically, Ronda Rousey and Sonya Deville had Xia Li and Lacey Evans in a submission hold. They made them tap. So the final two were Ronda Rousey and Sonya Deville, which the crowd blew up, because it was like, hey, they both have MMA background styles. I've been saying for the longest they need to put Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Ronda Rousey as a faction. They have MMA backgrounds, and that's a legit group that can get any women's title, singles title, and can get the women's tag team titles, and would be that would be dope. Can you imagine a tag team of Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler? Ronda Rousey the head. Come on, man. Like, it's there. And honestly, wouldn't be surprised if it happens next year. Maybe sooner, but I would not be surprised if it happens next year. So we get this encounter between Ronda Rousey and Sonya Deville. It was a lot of MMA takedowns, which, hey, if they have the background, let them ladies go at it. Like, let them display their skill set. They did it for a little bit, but in the end, Ronda Rousey did the Piper's Pit, then the arm bar. She teased it, then she did the ankle lock. 1, 2, 3. Sonya Deville taps out. So we got Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan's in the suite, raising the title. Ronda Rousey's pointing at her. But yeah, this match, I mean, I wish it was a little bit longer because of the wrestlers that were in there. Xia Li, Ronda Rousey, Natalya, and Sonya Deville and Lacey Evans. Like, I wish it was a little bit longer, but it is what it is. But you got Ronda Rousey, Liv Morgan. Hopefully this comes to an end. I think that we're going to see Ronda Rousey with that strap, considering that we're getting to the fall season, which you look at it from a TV rating standpoint, it's going to be highly competitive. So they're probably going to go in that direction. Then we get a backstage segment with the Usos, with Solo Sakoa. Again, you get another encounter with Sami Zayn coming in, and Solo was like, man, you know what? You took the shot. Cool. Sami Zayn's like, yeah, if you need anything. And Jey Uso's like, nah, man, he good. He good. No, he good. And you see Jimmy Uso just laughing. Like, they're having fun, and it's coming across on the screen because us as fans, and I'm speaking for me, I'm enjoying it because it's hilarious. Then we get another backstage segment where Ronda Rousey runs into Sonya Deville. They're making small talk. Shayna Baszler. Not saying it. Oh, God. It was Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. So Shayna Baszler looks at Ronda Rousey like, hey, good luck. I know you don't need it, but good luck. And Ronda Rousey says this. So this is one of the, you can say, genesis where you can tell they're going to lead to Sonya or Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey joining forces. So Ronda Rousey looks at Shayna Baszler and she says, let me know when you want to break some bones. That is going to be a fun tag team. Then we get the Maximum Male Models versus Hit Row Street Profits. Again, this was a very quick match. I love that Hit Row's back, and I love that Street Profits are with them and everything. But this is one of those feuds where it's you could tell it's getting Hit Row acclimated with the crowd, but eventually it's going to steer into something else. And of course, there was a digital exclusive where they teased that LA Knight could be returning, which should have never changed them, because that's one guy that could be one of your top single stars on the show. This was a pretty much a squash match, because Angelo Dawkins did his dive, Montez Ford did his. It was pretty one-sided. So I want to see Hit Row and Street Profits move on to something else that gets their, like, all right, it's cool to see them back. They're having fun, but like something more where they're wrestling for stakes and they're involved in something with stakes and championships, and just not, we're here. And it's like, okay. Then we get a recap of Braun Strowman debuting this past Monday on Monday Night Raw. We got the Alpha Academy coming out. They talk about Braun interfering in the tag team match, which we did not find the winner, which they announced on this episode of SmackDown. They will have that match next week on SmackDown. So, all right. He runs down Seattle, which is where this episode of SmackDown was at. Seattle couldn't keep a basketball team. Chorus of boos. Then Strowman comes out. He beats the hell out of him. And one of the most impressive things he did was he powerbombed Otis. You could tell he kind of struggled because Otis is not a small man by any stretch. So he got him up there, but he didn't get him all the way like that. He whoop, boom, and dropped him. So Strowman came out. Easy, good pop. I'm glad Strowman's back, but I do have some concern that hopefully they don't circle back into the same circle or troop that they did with Strowman before he left, where they had him doing some of the similar things that we were accustomed to, where it's not something new, where it's just like, okay, he's going to show his feat of strength, and where it's just like I don't know. I just hope they don't do that, because it is intriguing. It's like, okay, he hasn't fought any of the main guys like Drew, KO, Roman, Karrion Kross, not yet. Seth. He hasn't touched those guys, so it's like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. Then we get a backstage promo with Drew. He's saying that he should be the undisputed champion. He's going after Solo Sakoa, and actions have consequences. So in the main event, we get Drew McIntyre versus Solo Sakoa with the Usos and Sami Zayn at ringside. This was a very, it was a fun match. I liked the match. It was just the ending I did not care too much for because it was just the way it was shot and everything. So, Solo Sikoa, this was his first match on the main roster. Looked pretty good. You could tell that, getting acclimated from, the main roster to NXT, still getting acclimated to the ring and everything. Granted, it's the same size and everything, but again, it's one thing to wrestle in the CWC to wrestling in an arena full of people. So, no, he wasn't nervous or anything, but you could tell he just getting comfortable, and boom. As the match went on, he got more comfortable. You could tell. But man, he did some super kicks, some Samoan drops. It's like, it's going to be a bad boy up here. Really bad boy. The Usos interfere. Street Profits come out to fight them off. Drew, he claymores Solo Sikoa, and as he's about to pin him, Karrion Kross comes out, puts him in a sleeper hold. And this was something out of like the Munsters or a cheesy horror movie. As he puts him in the sleeper hold, like actually it felt like something in a video game where it was like as he was putting Drew in to sleep, like it went to black and white. It was like, huh? Like the screen went black to white. And then as Drew McIntyre's like passing out, the screen is like slowly fading to black. And I'm like, huh? Like, it's kind of cheesy. Like, what? That's the hell? Like, that's something out of a video game. And for me, it didn't make sense because Karrion Kross has made, 3 appearances so far? And granted, he black and white when he shows up, but like to do it during an attack where it's random, like, so he has these supernatural powers where it turned like, I don't know, it just didn't. Too hokey for me, man. Too hokey for Karrion Kross, and he doesn't need it. Like, he does not need it, and I don't know. So definitely we're getting a Karrion Kross Drew McIntyre program, possibly at Extreme Rules. We'll see where that goes. But this was your episode of the September 9th Smackdown. Overall, like I said, this was a fun show, but again, there was some cheesy stuff. The highlight for me, I will say, is the Bruising Brutes and Imperial match. But seeing Solo Sikoa finally on the main roster and the reality to the dynamic of Solo Sikoa, the Usos, and Roman, now it starts, okay, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Because, I mean, let's face it, we've been fantasy booking, oh man, when Solo Sikoa goes up with the Usos and this. But to see this dynamic, like, this is going to be fun. And it's crazy because Sami Zayn is kind of like how Owen Hart was in the Nation. And it's like, man, it's kind of, except for Sami Zayn, like I said before earlier in this video, Sami Zayn is more on the comedic, hey, I'll do anything to be accepted, guys. Whereas Owen Hart was a shooter. Like, nah, you're already in. You're good. You're with us. You're with us. So that whole dynamic, it was fun to see that. See the Usos with their younger brother, how he looks in the ring and just how he moves. He has a different look than the Usos. So it's just like, all right, this is going to be fun to see how this plays out. You know, when you have a 6-man tag, the Usos and Solo Sikoa against, now, hopefully Big E comes back soon. You could have the New Day versus the Usos and Solo Sikoa. And it's like, all right, you get that dynamic. So many fun dynamics with the Solo Sikoa coming up to the main roster and joining the Usos, which that is going to be fun. That is going to be fun to see. But overall, this episode was okay, but you can tell that certain things on this show is leading towards, a heightened creative as we go into the fall season, and TV ratings it's going to get competitive with live sports and college football and Monday Night Football and stuff like that on Mondays and Fridays, and it's going to get interesting, especially college basketball. I forgot about that. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out, but Solo Sikoa, it's a bad man. Bad man. And actually, it would have been dope if he would have came out to his dad's heel theme, I'm a Bad Man. Oh, that would be dope, man. Oh, man. That'd be so dope. But that is my review for the September 9th episode of WWE Smackdown. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you're notified when House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, we have a lot of wrestling going on. Thankfully, the news cycle has somewhat died down from how it was this past Monday. Thank God. With that,